Hello, and welcome back to Mr. B Teaches History. Today we will examine the strengths each side of the Civil War had at the start of it. Remember, the North, or Union, refers to the United States of America, led by President Abraham Lincoln, and they are fighting to restore the Union and eventually free the slaves. The South, or Confederacy, refers to the Confederate States of America, led by President Jefferson Davis, and they are fighting to maintain their cultural institutions of slavery. So let's get started. The Union had more economic advantages during the war, which ultimately led them to win the war against the Confederate slave-supporting South. First, they have more natural resources to provide the materials they would need to fight and win the war. They also had more agricultural farms that made sure the soldiers were fed. Lastly, they had more iron and coal mines that helped with the creation of weapons to fight with, and the trains and railroads needed to move the supplies and soldiers quickly to where they were needed. In the South, because it was largely fought within its borders, they had shorter supply lines than the Northern armies. Most of the well-known, decorated, and best-trained officers of the military came from the Southern states. In fact, General Robert E. Lee, who was the head of the Army's military academy at West Point, turned down President Lincoln's request to command the Union's army in favor of defending his home state of Virginia from the Union, after it decided to secede from the Union. There are many other Southern generals, too. Meanwhile, the North had the strength of President Lincoln's single desire to keep the Union together when others thought they should just let the South go. He also had the strength to change the focus of the war when necessary and shoulder the responsibility for that change in the Emancipation Proclamation. Only two real generals helped the North win, Ulysses S. Grant and William Tecumseh Sherman, but their contributions did not come until late in the war, whereas many of the Southern generals kept them in the fight for a long time. While the North had the geographic advantages of their economy, the South had their literal geography as their advantage. They knew that where they were going to fight a defensive war. In fact, all but two of the battles were fought in the Southern states, with 90% of the battles being fought in the state of Virginia. Therefore, the generals and the soldiers would generally have a greater lay of the land on which they would be fighting. Also, they had a greater resistance to the weather and diseases that were present in the South. Generally, though, the North had control of the coast because they had an established navy that quickly blockaded the ports of the Confederacy to stop them from either exporting their cash crops to other nations or importing much-needed supplies from overseas. Lastly, since the Southern soldier would be defending their homeland, it is thought they had an advantage over those who would be invading to reunite the country. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or clarifications you would like to make about this lecture, please leave a comment below. If you learned something new, please consider leaving a like. If you would like to receive notifications of more content like this, please consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell. If you would like to support this channel and creator financially, please check out the links in the description for merchandise or sites that will provide me direct financial support for the work of this channel. Thank you for your time and have a great day. Class dismissed.